Good morning. I think we will go ahead and get started here. My name is Kelly Kelnar, and this is our third FAFSA webinar. So yay, I'm so glad you guys have decided to join us and hear about the newest information that we know about for the FAFSA. Several things I will be repeating. So if you've been on these webinars, I apologize for that, but I want to cover some of the basics each time that we're doing this. So we will go ahead and get started here. And I can't move my screen. That happened. Excuse me, wait just a second. Thank you. All right, here we go. Okay, so we're going to cover obviously the new graduation requirement. We do have the statement that you need to put on the transcript for your schools. We're going to talk about tracking the FAFSA information and a little bit on assisting how federal student aid can assist your families that speak languages other than English or Spanish. We'll have a little bit of information on resources for students without a Social Security number. And we'll touch briefly on studentaid.gov accounts and some of our resources. So, okay, so here's what we know right now. Obviously, you all know FAFSA, free application for federal student aid. This is what the new graduation requirement is to have seniors at public high schools here in Oklahoma complete this form while they're seniors and then every year in college, hopefully. And we do know the FAFSA will not be released until at least December 1st. They've said on or before December 1, so we're hoping that will come out in December. The Department of Education started doing some beta testing on October 1st, and they had picked certain schools and states across the country to do the beta testing just to work out some of the bugs that they had last year, which you all probably lived through. There were several things that went wrong last year, but those seem to be going well with the beta testing. In fact, some students that were in that study, if they included Oklahoma schools on their FAFSA, we received their FAFSA information. So we've already got that. So we know at least that part of it is working well. We do know Department of Education has added 700 additional people to answer their hotline, the Federal Student Aid Information Center hotline, which is the 1-800-4FED-AID number. That's like an 80% increase over the number of people that answered the phones last year. And they did release information saying last year between January and May, they had 5.4 million phone calls and 4 million of those went unanswered, which is horrible. But we're hoping this year with so many additional people that will get them back on track. So now if you're working with families that speak languages other than English or Spanish, Federal Student Aid gave us this number, the 833-610-2590, as a number that those families can call to get assistance. They need to press 7 when they get when their phone is being answered. I don't think it says that anywhere. So Federal Student Aid was very adamant that just say, please tell them to press 7 when they get in there. They will name the language that they need to speak. And they said they have people that speak over 60 different languages that hopefully can help whoever is calling in. So we hope this will be a really good asset to help those families that may need assistance. They did say for schools to please not share this number with families that speak English or Spanish, since they can get help readily on the 4FED-AID number. But please keep it and use it with any of the families you work with that need assistance. Okay, so the graduation requirement, we all know that passed last year. That's for this school year, the 2024-25 school year, that seniors must complete a FAFSA in order to graduate. The students can opt out, and we will talk about that a little bit later. And this link will show you how to find this information on the State Department of Education's website. They have a few other resources out there under their college and career page. Also too, to kind of keep the years straight with all of this, I know it's a little confusing, but we're talking about your class of 2025. They will submit the 25-26 FAFSA that won't come out until December of 2024. And the families that complete that will use their 2023 tax information. So years are all over the place there, but just remember, students will use the FAFSA or complete the FAFSA for the year they'll be starting college. So they will be in school for 25-26. And then the FAFSA always uses tax information from 2 years prior to the year they will start college. So students will start 2025 using 2023 tax information. I know that gets very confusing. So here's some of the requirements for you at the high schools. So your superintendent will pick one person at your school to be in charge of collecting all the information on FAFSA completion for your seniors. That person will store this information according to FERPA guidelines, however you need to store it. Similarly to the way that you keep your ICAP results, you keep your CPR or any of those other types of things that are requirements for graduation. Save them in that particular manner. And then also you as a schools must provide resources, information to students and parents on what the FAFSA is, why it's important. You can offer sessions to them. We will come out and do in-person sessions or sessions via Zoom if you need us to work with your parents or students. We are also offering different materials that you can use, and we'll show you those toward the end of the presentation. Now, this one is new that we just found out last week. This is the statement that you must put on your transcript from here on out that will state the student has satisfactorily met the graduation requirement of completing the FAFSA or submitting an opt-out form. So I'll give you guys a minute to maybe take a picture of that. We're recording all of these webinars and putting the PowerPoints on our website. So you'll be able to look at this again next week, but just so you know, this is a statement that you need to include. Okay, you can find this statement in the State Department of Ed's Advisement and Policy Handbook, and that is on their website too. And then here's a link on here for where you can actually go to get that information as well. Okay, so now tracking all of this information. We're going to talk to you briefly about the Oklahoma FAFSA data portal. I know I cover that in each one of these sessions, but we've had a lot of schools sign up, which is really great. And this is a very good service that you can use to help track your students that are completing a FAFSA. You can also save emails that maybe your students will get once they submit a FAFSA. They'll get an email. They'll also get a FAFSA submission summary when their FAFSA has been processed, and they can email that to you or give you a copy of it, whatever you need to do, but those will work as well. And then we'll also, again, we'll talk about this opt-out form here pretty quick. Okay, so the FAFSA data portal, this is a free service that we provide through the Oklahoma State Regents for Higher Education and the Oklahoma College Assistance Program. And it will offer you a way to track your seniors as they go through their FAFSA process. So to find the information on this, you can go to our website, okhighered.org, click Educators, and then there's a tab for Oklahoma FAFSA Data Portal. Click on that. That will kind of give you a walkthrough of how you go about getting your school set up for this process. All the forms that are necessary then are on the right-hand side, and I'll walk through those for you quickly so you can see what's needed. This is the FAFSA data portal agreement. This we need from every school. This will share information about what the portal is all about, the type of information you need to provide to us, that you need to keep it secure, and it just kind of walks you through the legal steps of all of this. The last page of the agreement is for your superintendent to list the authorized users at your school that can have access to the FAFSA information. So, and again, the person signing this agreement should be the superintendent, or you can also use your school board president, or if your school has a CEO, if, you know, for whatever reason, they can also sign as well. But then they will list the people at your school that will have access to this information. And all of those documents will come back to me. Here's my email address. And my name and information's on all of this stuff, so you will see it numerous times. So once I get your agreement, I will send a privacy certification to each of the authorized users. You just sign this and send it back to me, and that's all you need to do with that form. We'll also send you a list of instructions for using the FAFSA data portal. And then you can go onto the website, the okhighered.org/FAFSA web, and register your account as a user. And this is kind of what it will look like. You'll put in your school email address. You'll make up your own password, then just include your name, your title, and the school that you're connected with. So we will be able to give you access to that information for your students. Okay. Then we will also send you a list of instructions for submitting your seniors to us, as well as a template. This is pretty straightforward. We just ask for student's name, date, and date of birth. Gender is listed on here, but that's optional because students do not have to put their gender on the FAFSA any longer. So we don't really need that, but if you want to include it, that's fine. We do ask that you provide the student's legal name, because when they complete their FAFSA, they have to use their legal name because they'll do a match with the Social Security Administration to make sure everything is accurate. So if you provide a list and you have Bob Smith on there, but on the FAFSA, he said Robert Smith, there's not going to be a match. So we want to make sure you have as many matches as possible here. Okay, so when you get into the FAFSA data portal homepage, you'll be able to see the schools in Oklahoma, and those with information next to them have been using the FAFSA data portal. Now, this is an old screenshot, so don't pay any attention to this, but this is what you will see. And this is a little bit new compared to what we've shown you in the past few webinars. Every student you provide on your list will now be shown on the FAFSA data portal. We used to only show the names of those students that had actually started a FAFSA or submitted a FAFSA, excuse me. Now we're including everybody. So if you see the statement that says no FAFSA match, that means they have not done anything. Or if they have, then their name was not correct on your list, or their date of birth could have been incorrect. So we would have you go back and check your list of information just to make sure it looks accurate. If not, feel free to reach out to me and we will do some checking and see if we can determine why the student is not showing up if they have submitted a FAFSA. So this here, you can see it a little bit easier here, sorry. But yeah, you'll be able to see if the FAFSA is complete, the date that it was submitted. If a student may be missing a student signature or a parent signature, that will show up here. Some of the other things that are missing from a FAFSA, we will not have access to. The college will get that information and they'll reach out to the students to get them to correct their FAFSAs depending on what information was necessary. So, but this will kind of give you an idea of what you'll be able to see. Okay, so now I'm just going to walk you through, if perhaps you have never used the FAFSA data portal in years past, you're going to go through all the steps that I just talked about with the agreement, the users form for those that will have access, and then the privacy certifications for those that are using the data portal. Now, if you have the same superintendent as last year and you used it last year and you have the same users, we don't need anything else. If all your paperwork was done last year, we don't need you to do anything new this year other than upload your list of seniors to us. And you can see here at the bottom, I've marked through this. We've been saying all along, you don't send your list until the FAFSA has been released. Go ahead and send it. We're okay with that. If you've already sent it, that's fine. If you still want to wait till December to make sure maybe your list is more up to date, that's perfectly fine too. Just do not send us two lists. If you do that, that's gonna mess things up. So don't do that. If you need to add names to a list you've already submitted, send those to me. If you need to remove names, when you print off this information at the end of the school year that we just showed you, sorry, I will go back to that slide, like on this type of thing. You'll be able to print this off, and this will show you who's completed a FAFSA. You'll be able to go into this list because it will just print on an Excel spreadsheet. You can just take off the names of the students that are no longer at your school. But to add names, you'll need to send that information to me. Okay, we'll get back up to where we were. Okay. Okay, so if you have a new superintendent this year and you use the FAFSA data portal last year, we do need a new agreement signed by the new superintendent. And if the new superintendent adds new users to your school or tells us to take some users off, we will do that, but then I'll send privacy certifications to any of the new users because we'll need to have those updated if we have new people. And then if you have the same superintendent, but new users this year, the superintendent can complete the authorized user form, which is shown on the okhighered.org webpage that includes all the FAFSA information. They can just find the authorized users form and add the information to that, send it in to me, and then I'll send out privacy certifications to the new users. The authorized user form is the same form that's in the full agreement. It's the very last page of that. So you can print it from there or just from the authorized users form. And all these forms are fillable forms that you can complete directly on your computer and then just email them back to me. Okay, I know that was a lot of information there. So if you have questions, please put them in the chat. We'll try to answer them at the end of the webinar here, but here's my name and email address. If you would like to just reach out and say, I don't know, I'm new at the school this year, I don't know what we've done in the past on the data portal, just let me know and I can look it up and send you that information because we want to make sure everyone is signed up if you want to use this service for your tracking purposes. Okay, here is the opt-out form. So here's the link to find it, again, on the State Department of Ed's website, their college and career page. It's down at almost the very bottom of the screen. But this is what it is, what it looks like. It's just a front and back form. And the law says that the parent or legal guardian of the student can opt their student out of completing a FAFSA. They don't have to show a reason for that, but they just have to sign and fill out all the information and get it to the counselor at the school to make sure they have that piece of information complete. The student, once they turn 18, can opt themselves out and give that form directly to you. And if you decide to opt out any of your students, the law says the counselor can opt them out, not the superintendent, not the English teacher, but the counselor can opt out students on their own. So keep these forms electronically, however you want to do it, just in a safe place with all of your other FAFSA tracking information. Okay, I'm going to pass the screen over to Robbie Leftwich. He's in our outreach department, and he put together some good information for getting financial assistance for students without Social Security numbers. So I will turn it over to Robbie.
Thank you, Kelly. Yeah, last month we had some specific questions about this, so we wanted to go ahead and do our best to give you guys some information on it if you don't already have it, just so you can kind of have a baseline for what is available to those students. Here you're seeing a screenshot that I took from the Higher Ed Immigration Portal. It's a really great website you can use to get a lot of information on what's available for undocumented or students without a Social Security number, refugee students, all different situations they might be in. This specifically is showing what access they have in the state of Oklahoma. So you can see the yellow box is showing they have access to in-state tuition costs, and they have access to some state financial aid. They do have to meet some qualifications to get those, but those are available to these students. On the other end, they do not have access to getting driver's licenses, identification, that kind of thing. Currently, there's no policies in place for other things like professional, occupational licensure. There's just nothing in the laws or the policies about those things for these students at the moment. Go ahead, Kelly. So here's some of these, the things that they have access to, the qualifications. You can see these students without Social Security numbers, they are not eligible for federal financial aid. They can't get Pell Grants. They don't qualify for the Federal Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant, which is another one of those FAFSA grants. They can't do federal work study or get federal direct loans. There may be other financial aid for them, though, in the form of like university scholarships or private organizations that would offer money to them. In Oklahoma specifically, without a Social Security number, like we just said, if they meet certain qualifications, they can take advantage of in-state tuition at public post-secondary institutions. And you can see the criteria there in that top right section. They do have to attend a public or private high school in Oklahoma for 2 years. They have to be living with a legal guardian for those 2 years in order to do that. They do have to have secured admission and be enrolled in an institution in the Oklahoma State system of higher education. And they do have to provide completed paperwork with the USCIS. So they do have some work they have to put in to get that, but it's available to them. And obviously the kinds of financial aid after the in-state tuition that's available to them is kind of vary from university to university, but there's institutional scholarships they can take advantage of. There's grants from universities, loans. There are outside of federal work study, there are other work programs they might be able to join in on. And of course, a lot of those institutional scholarships come with a merit component that they'll have to meet in order to get those. Like always, the financial aid offices at those universities are going to have the information you need, and they'll be your best friends with that information. Here's a list of some of the things that you can look at to get more information. These are all links. So when we post this PowerPoint presentation on the website, you'll be able to get in here and you can click on these if you want to, or just, you should be able to just Google what I have listed here and it'll take you to them. But for example, the FSA has a whole bunch of information on their website about students without Social Security numbers or undocumented students and what is available for them. The second link here is for NASFA. It's just a tip sheet that they put together with some really good basic information, kind of on a federal level. It doesn't do specific things for Oklahoma, but it gives you some good guidelines if you have students that are looking to go out of state, I guess. We'd prefer they stay in state. We want them to stay here in Oklahoma. The Higher Ed Immigration Portal that I just mentioned is a great resource. It has a ton of information on every single state, but it's got a lot of really good information about Oklahoma specifically. Not just what's they have access to, but like how many international students do we have here? How many of those students are first generation immigrant? How many are second generation immigrants? How many are refugees? A lot of different information that you can use on that website. Oklahoma's Promise is something that these students can apply for. And when they get to college, if they are a legal citizen at that point, they'll be able to take advantage of Oklahoma's Promise. It doesn't stop them from applying, but they do have to meet all the qualifications. And obviously, One of those is they have to be able to fill out a FAFSA in order to get the Oklahoma's Promise, but it doesn't stop them from applying. The OTAG grant is one that's available to these students. They just have to meet the exact same requirements from the in-state tuition. So as long as they've been in a public or private school in Oklahoma for 2 years, living with their legal guardians, they've turned in all their paperwork that they need, and they're, approved and admitted into a university, they can apply for OTAG. This bottom website is just for a lot of good information for your Latino students. It's going to have a ton of information on what's available to them and what they have, what options they have legally. So that's a really good resource. And then this last slide that I want to show you guys is just about scholarships, because they can get scholarships. So these are some really good options. Obviously, OK College Start has a huge scholarship database, but they do have a lot for students without socials, with undocumented students that you can filter out. And then these other three are lists specifically with scholarships open to undocumented students. So this first one is updated every year. It looks like to me, it's been open for about 12 years now, this My Undocumented Life, and it's got a huge list of scholarships for those students. Sallie Mae has their own list of undocumented student scholarships. So does bestcolleges.com. So there's a lot of options for these students, and we don't want them to feel left out. We still want them to feel like they can go and they can get educated, and that there's, they can't access the federal money, but there's still a lot of options for them. And so hopefully this gives you just a little bit more information for them if they ask you about it, if their parents ask you about it. And if you have any other questions, reach out to me, reach out to Kelly. We'll try and help you guys if you need any more on this. That's what I've got on that.
Thanks, Robbie, very much. I did want to make one comment about the OTAG, Oklahoma Tuition Aid Grant. Students do have to complete a separate application for that. And your link that you showed, I think that will take them to that application. So, all right, thank you very much. Okay, there we go. All right, now I'm just going to talk briefly about studentaid.gov account creation. I know I went over this last month, so if you want to see a little bit more of it, you can go back and watch our September webinar. But this is something you can have your students and parents work on right now. Studentaid.gov account is the new name for FSA ID. They're probably going to be calling it both things here this year, but eventually they're moving just towards studentaid.gov account. It's the very same thing. It's a username and password the student and parent will use to access and sign a FAFSA online. But we have a couple of PowerPoints on our youcango2.org website, and I won't go through all the slides. They will just kind of walk you through, starting off, what a FAFSA is, why it's important, why you need to complete it, that it is now a graduation requirement, but it will walk students and parents through each slide of the setup process. Information to enter. It will talk about codes. It will send a code to the student or parent's phone or email that they have to enter into this to get their studentaid.gov account confirmed. So just so you know, it kind of will walk you through that whole process. Then we have another PowerPoint that talks about parents or spouses of students that don't have a Social Security number, because they are also going to be required to complete a studentaid.gov account for their child or spouse's FAFSA if they need to include information. So this PowerPoint also covers the same information about what is a FAFSA, all that. Just these screens are a little different because this will show them places that parents or spouses will check if they do not have a Social Security number, and just some of the things they'll go through. They'll answer some knowledge-based questions, which are similar to what you answer when you're getting a credit report. Like they will list 4 or 5 addresses and say, have you lived at one of these addresses in the past? Or have you had a relationship with maybe this lending service, or whatever it may be? But if students and parents and spouses get all those questions correct, then it will say, great, here's your account, you're ready to go ahead and work on the FAFSA. If they do miss a question, it will tell them what to do from there as far as contacting federal student aid, and they will let them know what other type of documentation they'll need to make sure their account is confirmed. So just so you know, those are out there if you would like to share them with your families. We also have studentaid.gov account worksheets in English and Spanish. So as students are entering all this information to set up their account, they can put in all the answers on one of these forms, hang on to it, because if they use this once a year to complete a FAFSA, they may not remember the following year what their account information was. So these are great to hang on to. Also too, last year, as you may remember, sometimes only one parent needed an account, sometimes both parents. So for students, dependent students that maybe have parents that have been divorced or separated or widowed or whatever it may be, they can go through this flow chart, answer all the questions, and it will tell them which parent needs to have a studentaid.gov account, or if both of them do. So this is a good way to kind of walk them through the process so they're ready ahead of time with all these accounts already set up. So when the FAFSA is released in December, you'll be ready to move. Okay, I'm just going to briefly show you some resources that we have that you can use as part of your FAFSA completion efforts. These are the websites that we work with here at OCAP. You can go to, we've included all of our new FAFSA publications are on our website. We have several things you can print, information about events that we can provide to you. Everything we offer is free. We do have on our educators tab a link to the FAFSA toolkit, and that will list all the information specific to the FAFSA. We're also updating our FAFSA fundamentals PowerPoint, which Letha Huddleston does every year and loves it. It's a 3,000 page document. It's not quite that big, but we do try to include screenshots and information for almost every question on the FAFSA. So she will get that done, and we'll have that out there hopefully in early December. Here are some of the forms we have. We have finished the FAFSA in 5 steps, which is also in Spanish. We have a dependency questionnaire that students can kind of run through quickly to answer several questions to determine if they're going to have to show parent information or not on the FAFSA. There's a flyer for parents with links to different publications. Here are some of the other PowerPoints that we offer. There's one about understanding your financial aid award when that's sent to you, which would come, usually those start going out in maybe March, April. We'll see when that all starts happening this year. There's one and explaining the Student Aid Index, which is the new name for EFC, or Expected Family Contribution. It just kind of explains to students and parents how it's calculated and what it's used for. And then we have Scholarships 101 that will share a lot of information for students about how and where to find scholarships. We also have our booklet online, Are You Looking for Money? This is one of our most popular ones. It includes information about state grants and scholarships that we provide here. Federal aid is listed, all the different types, what the differences, what you can learn from those. We have our Path to Scholarship Success, which kind of gives students tips on how to be organized when they're applying for scholarships. And then we list on this page, all the websites on the left side are for scholarship search websites. Most of them are where students can go in and answer questions about themselves, about their interests, their hobbies, things they like to do, things they're interested in, and it will match scholarships up to their interests. So that's a really cool way to get information sent directly to them. On the right-hand side of the page are tribal websites. These are tribes here in Oklahoma that offer funding for higher education. So if you are part of one of these tribes, you might check that out to make sure you're getting all of the information and funding that you can to help with your college education. And then we have a list of other links for information on our last page here, but you can find that booklet on You Can Go To. Then we also just added a FAFSA timeline for educators, giving you things, ideas, and things that you can be doing throughout the school year by month. We also include links to each of our webinars that we're doing here and some other things listed. So this is a very helpful tool that you can use. We also added this, which are these cute little signs that you can print off and hang in your office so students will know where to go if they have questions about the FAFSA. So this is on our You Can Go To site as well in lots of different colors, and you can pick the color that you want to print off. So with OK College Start, they include a lot of information on their financial aid planning tab, just about the whole thing about financial aid, what it is, the different types of aid, explaining all of those. So you can check in on that and get information there. If you use OK College Start for your ICAP, they've also added a new activity, which you can include, which talks about doing a FAFSA. Now, you can reword it if you need to, but students can see this and remind them to do a FAFSA, and then they can answer if they plan to do one, if they don't, if they've already submitted it, they can include this information. Now, this is not something you can use as confirmation, but it'll just be another way to get the FAFSA information out there in front of your students so they'll know this is something they need to complete by graduation. Okay, Start with FAFSA is our other good website that just includes information about the FAFSA form. We put new articles out on here every Monday. We include information about our videos that we will have updated toward the end of, or toward the start of December in English and Spanish. So we'll have that information for you. We're also coordinating FAFSA Fast Track, which is something that will be a series of events across the state that you can send your students or parents to get help from financial aid professionals at colleges or career techs to get the FAFSA completed. So we've had about 30 schools tell us so far that they will participate in this program. It's on our Start with FAFSA website, or you can get to it directly by FAFSAfasttrack.org. But you can see there's a button here at the top where you can get this information. We already have a few events listed on the map out here. You can see some different ones here with the dates and times, and we will update this as soon as we get new information and include all the places around the state. As we get closer to time, we will also try to contact the high schools near these career techs or colleges, just so it gives you an update to say, oh yes, remind my students or parents to go to this event at Metro Technology Center or Eastern Oklahoma County Tech, whatever it may be, so they can get some assistance with their FAFSAs. Okay, our FAFSA webinar link, obviously you've already found that since you're on the webinar today, but that's also on the Start with FAFSA website. We have included now recordings for our August and September webinars, which you can go to here and find. And we added the PowerPoints as well, so that you would have access to links that we're providing on here. And we have these webinars scheduled through May, so feel free to register for all of them or just the ones that you may be interested in. So we've kind of talked about everything that we have to offer here. If there's anything you think would be great to help you with this FAFSA graduation requirement or providing information to your students or parents, please let us know, because we can try to create something that will be helpful to you. So just, reach out to any of us if you have an idea about something you think would be fabulous, and we'll be happy to do that. So here's our outreach team. We are adding a new person toward the end of this month, so we'll have her on our next webinar. So we'll have 4 of us that can come out and provide information to you. But Letha Huddleston, I'm sure a lot of you know her. Robbie just spoke to you about these information for students without social security numbers. I'm happy to come out as well. We want to do everything we can do to make sure that you get the information you need. Okay, so now we are going to open it up for questions, or if you have any questions that were in the chat that you need to share, well, go ahead right now.
Kelly, there is nothing in the chat, but I wanted to make a quick clarification on something I said a few minutes ago.
Okay.
I mentioned the in-state tuition for students that have no social security number. That's a little different for students who are under refugee status or temporary protected status. They don't have to jump through all the same hoops. The Regents put a policy into place last year for students like that, and they are just automatically eligible for that in-state tuition if they have refugee status or temporary protected status.
Okay,
The list of
great.
temporary protected status is on the Department of Homeland Security website, the nations that fall under that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, well,
We did just get a couple
Okay.
questions in the chat, sorry.
okay, no, that's great.
It says, can you send the link? Can you send a link for the new form you showed that spreads things out monthly for us?
Yes, I think Teresa is adding that to the chat right now, so you can find that. Yes,
Mhm.
all of it is also on, you can go to .org under educators and FAFSA toolkit. That's where you can find all of these things too. But yeah, we will get that sent. So
And then at what point does the statement go on the transcripts? After both parent and student signatures, or is there a better time to do that? Just as soon as it's fulfilled, I guess?
I guess, well, that will just be between you and the school. Yeah, I don't know when you would include that. If at the end of the school year, if you go through and, see who all's done what they needed to do with the FAFSA, I don't know when you would want to add that. If someone graduates in December, I guess you need to have it on before that time, but yeah, that's a good question. We'll try to get some confirmation from the State Department of Ed on any of that.
And you mentioned the thing about students graduating in December, right? For the FAFSA requirement.
Yeah, if your student graduates in December, I know they would barely have time to do the new FAFSA, but if they don't have time, you can do an opt-out form for them just to get your bases covered. If you opt a student out and they do a FAFSA the very next day, that's fine. It's not going to stop them from doing anything. But yeah, if they graduate in December, yes, you want to at least know that they've done a FAFSA or do an opt-out form for them.
And sorry, maybe this is wrong. Had you also said that if they graduate in December but are starting university in the spring, they can use the 24-25 FAFSA?
Yes. Yeah. If the student graduates in December, but they are going to start college, say in January, and they go ahead and complete the 24-25 FAFSA, which is still out there for this school year, then yes, that will count as their FAFSA completion. State Department said if a FAFSA is completed during their senior year, whether 24-25 or 25-26, that will count as their FAFSA completion.
But if they fill out the 24-25, then they're not going to be able to use it for the next fall. So that's not going to do any good for a student that's graduating in the spring.
Right. If they would do the 24-25 FAFSA if they start college in January, because that FAFSA will be for this school year right now, 24-25.
Right.
And then, yes, the 25-26 will be for the following year. Am I getting that confused with something?
No, it's confusing without us putting our own stuff in.
Okay.
So if the FAFSA is not totally complete, doesn't have both signatures, then they'll need an opt-out form, correct?
Yes, unless they, can go in and make corrections and get it submitted. Yes.
Because the rule is it needs to be completed.
Right, completed, not just submitted.
Right.
So, yeah, If they can't get it completed by graduation or whatever cutoff date you guys use, then yeah, they'll need to do an opt-out form.
That's all the questions I see in the chat at the moment.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks very much. We'll have our next webinar in November. And if you have any questions between now and then, please reach out to us and we will try to help you if we can. So thank you very much. We appreciate it. Bye-bye.